Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. Welcome to the Library of Congress. Whoa. My name is Suzanne Shadle. I am the chief of the Hispanic Division. I have the privilege of working with a tremendous team of librarians, including several in the audience. Thank you all for your work. To improve access to diverse publications written in Spanish, Portuguese, English, and several indigenous languages of the Americas. Today we are fortunate to partner internally with the Poetry and Literature Center and externally with the Uruguayan Embassy. If you are here for Another Voice Sings, celebrating Uruguayan women poets, you're in the right place. If you came for something else, we hope you'll stay. For me and my division, it is an honor to welcome a tremendous panel comprised of writers, translators, teachers, professors, for a reading that celebrates a strong tradition of Uruguayan women poets and recent publications reflecting 4 generations of Uruguayan poetry written by women. That's an important theme for me today, I guess. In addition to hearing the work of Silvia Guerra, who's here with us today, you will also hear work from Amanda Berenguer, Marosa di Giorgio, Circe Maia, and Melisa Mechado. I have to plug my division and the work they do to some extent at these events. So if you're not familiar with the Handbook of Latin American Studies, and you search the Handbook of Latin American Studies on our catalog, which is online and anybody has access to it, you will find all of these authors and connections to other authors and to other work. So I would invite you to check that out and see where those links take you. And if you prefer the book format, volume 66 actually has a very important entry on our guest of honor today, Silvia Guerra. Okay, one plug. There's more coming, I'm sorry. This event is inspired in part by a previous event called Celebrating Idea Vilariño's Poetry. An audio file of that event can also be found in our catalog by searching Idea Vilariño. I'm going to spell that because it's easier to spell that than the web address where you're going to find it, okay? So the name in quotation marks will take you where you need to go. Idea, I-D-E-A, Vilariño, V-I-L-A-R-I-N-Y, that's the N with the little thingy on top, in case there's anybody here that isn't Spanish speaking. Oh, okay. Today we welcome Uruguayan poet, as I said, Silvia Guerra. You have this information in your, hopefully you all have a program, but I'm going to go ahead for the purpose of the audio and tell you a little bit about each of our speakers. Her books include Un mar enmadrugado, Pulso, Estampas de un tapiz. She is also the author of Todo comienza lugar, co-edited with Cuban poet José Coser, and Fuera de Relato. From 2009 to 2011, she was co-editor of the seminal Uruguayan poetry press La Flauta Mágica. In 2012, she received the Marosa Prize in Poetry for her career. Yesterday, Catalina Gomez, who works in the Hispanic Division, taped Silvia Guerra for our Archive of Hispanic Literature on tape, and eventually that recording will be available to all of you. But in the meantime, I hope you'll check out that archive and see what other Uruguayan poets and writers and other Latin American poets and writers are there, and you can get there by going to www, I'm going to give you the website this time, loc.gov/rr/Hispanic/archive. Okay. Also today we have several other esteemed guests. Jesse Lee Kercheval is a translator and author of 14 books of poetry, fiction, nonfiction. She specializes in Uruguayan poetry. Her translations include The Invisible Bridge, Selected Poems of Circe Maia, and Fable of an Inconsolable Man by Javier Echeverria. She's also editor of America Invertida, an anthology of emerging Uruguayan poets, and Earth, Water, Sky, a bilingual anthology of environmental poetry. She was a 2016 NEA Translation Fellow. She is the Sona Gale Professor of Poetry at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and she directs a program in creative writing, and she might stand at this podium more than I do today. Also, we have in attendance and in participating with us, Jeannine Pitas, a writer, teacher, and Spanish-English literary translator. She's the author of 2 poetry chapbooks and the translator of several Uruguayan poets, including Silvia Guerra and Marosa di Giorgio. She's published translations of acclaimed Uruguayan writer Marosa di Giorgio's work, I Remember Nightfall, and The History of Violets. She's an assistant professor at the University of, oh my gosh, Dubuque. That's what I thought. And then I just looked at it and thought, that sounds strange. I know. And then also we have with us Seth Michelson, who is a poet and translator, whose collections of poetry include Swimming Through Fire, Eyes Like Broken Windows, Kaddish for My Unborn Son, and Maestro of Brutal Splendor. His translations include the books The Ghetto by Tamara Kamenseng, and the Uruguayan poets Victoria Estol, Rolipoli, and Melisa Mechado, The Red Hour. He currently teaches the poetry of the Americas at Washington and Lee University. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to hearing everyone else speak.
Thank you so much for coming. This is a great privilege and honor, and I want to thank everyone at the Hispanic Division who has been so supportive of my work, and Rob Casper, and people in the Poet Laureate's office, and the Uruguayan Embassy, and all of Washington, D.C. Well, maybe not all of Washington, D.C. I wanted to just say a little bit about why this is a celebration of Uruguayan women's poetry and why I'm so obsessed with it. And that is, it's a tradition that's just amazing to me. Uruguay is a country of 3.3 million people, the smallest Spanish-speaking country in Latin America. It's a country full of poets. My joke is they produce 2 things in a world-class level on superabundance, which is soccer players and poets. But besides that, it has a long tradition of poetry. But it has this really amazing tradition of poetry by women. And this is important in an era where even now I buy a great big fat anthology of Latin American poetry, edited by people who, in theory, know what they're doing. And there are 2 or 3 women poets in the whole thing. And there are many more good women poets than that just in Uruguay. And the tradition especially gets started at the turn of the 20th century with poets like Maria Eugenia Vaz Ferreira and Elmira Augustini. And we don't start quite that far back, but we're really going to cover quite a run, almost up to the present, and that is we're going to have some poetry by some of the poets. There's something called the Generation of 45, which was a great flowering of literature in Uruguay. And we'll have poems by Amanda Berenguer, and there's a wonderful new anthology of her work coming out, and Anna Deeny, who's going to be reading some of her translations that'll be in that anthology. And a poem by Idea Villarino, who's, again, a really essential poet that we had a reading just of her work 2 years ago. And then those are people born in the 20s, and then you sort of jump up to people who are born in the 1930s. We're going to have the work by the amazing Marosa di Giorgio, and Jeannine Pitas is her translator, and there's a wonderful new book called I Remember Nightfall out of her work. And a poet, Silvia Guerra, who I adore, who Jeannine is just starting to bring into English. It's really not been available in English before. And also born in the 30s is Circe Maia, the poet that I've translated for this book from Pittsburgh, The Invisible Bridge. And so that's starting out, so that's the 20s and the 30s, and then we move forward to Silvia, who was, several decades ahead. And right now, we're just really privileged to have her with us. She's really one of the most important living women poets in Uruguay. Especially someone who is, of her generation. I have to say, Ida Vitali, who is in the generation of the 20s, is still alive. Uruguayan poets, women poets, they live forever. But Silvia Guerra is really an important Uruguayan women poet, and she's really been at the center of poetry. She works in Poetry Foundation, she's worked for presses, she's doing interviewing poets. She really works hard to move forward this tradition. Jeannine Pitas and I will be reading translations of hers. We've just started translating her work. And then to close with sort of the youngest person will be Melisa Mechado, who is just in her 40s, and Seth Michelson translated her book, which was published here last year. Now, we won't be reading in that order. We're reading in the order that's in the program. But I just wanted to give you a sense of the sweep from people born in the 1920s to people born, just at the end of the last century. And really, if we wanted to and we had time, we could go all the way down to poets who are publishing books now and being discovered in anthologies in Uruguay who are in their 17, 18, 22. There's just this constant flowering of Uruguayan women poets in this tradition that makes each woman aware of the possibility of being a poet. And I'm talking about being a serious, well-known public intellectual, not someone who writes secretly and it's discovered after they're gone. I mean, so I really feel this is something that should be better known outside of Uruguay, and I hope you feel the same way after you hear the poetry. Thank you. Silvia Guerra.
Bueno, ¿se oye así?
¿Está bien? ¿Puedo ver?
Ahí sí. Bueno, buenas tardes. Estoy muy contenta de estar acá. Esto que voy a leer se llama Ese espacio que es mío. Este libro es un libro que salió en Buenos Aires. Para nosotros es importante decirlo porque el Río de la Plata funciona un poco como Río de la Plata. Entonces, para el Uruguay, Buenos Aires es muy importante. Somos como una especie también como de región, ¿no? El Río de la Plata. Este libro salió en Buenos Aires en una editorial que la llevan adelante 3 poetas mujeres que se llaman Dolores Echecopar, María Mascheroni y María del Carmen Colombo. Y me gusta nombrarlas porque me parece que está bien. Siempre le tengo que agradecer a Jesse todo lo que ha hecho con la traducción y bueno, a Jeannine, pero digo, Jesse es como la persona que ha ido al Uruguay y ha traído a los uruguayos para acá. Este poema se llama Ese espacio que es mío. Ese espacio de cielo, ese que es mío, en la palma, pedazo de arena, salvia, viento. ¿Qué puede demostrar al mundo 1 o 2 dientes de sombrero ladeado, de aguafiestas? Todo es un torbellino, el silbido del viento, la claridad previa del trueno detrás de la isla, los postigones verdes. Ese espacio de cielo, las rocas justas que entran en la ventana, Javier por la bajada, el chorro de agua. ¿Qué son ahora 1 o 2 dientes, el hincapié, la angustia? ¿Qué son ahora los dientes de Drácula de plástico, olvidados en el lavabo de un baño que no es mío? ¿Quién va a decirme a mí lo que era mío? ¿Quién va a explicarme a mí lo que me resta? Me aguarda un paraíso de ramas extendidas que paren la caída. Me aguarda una arboleda, muchedumbre de árboles, juntados, esperándome. Ese espacio de cielo reservado, salvia, viento, ese espacio de cielo, estoy segura.
Silvia was saying that this is a book of hers that was published in Argentina last year, that there's a sort of culture that Argentina and Uruguay share, via Platense culture. And it's an anthology or a selected of all of her books. That space is mine. That space of sky is mine. In the palm, a bit of sand, sage, wind. What can it show the world? 1 or 2 teeth like a tilted hat, a spoil sport. Everything is a whirlwind. The whistling wind, the early clarity of thunder behind the island, the green shutters. That space of sky, the precise rocks fitting into the window, Javier going down, the jet of water. What are they now? 1, 2 teeth, the stress, the anguish. What are the plastic Dracula teeth now, forgotten in the sink of a bathroom that is not mine? Who is going to explain to me what is mine? Who is going to tell me what remains for me? I await a paradise of outstretched branches that fall. I await a grove, a flock of trees, together, waiting for me.
that space of private sky, sage and wind, that space of sky, I am certain.
Esto se llama La Copa de Alabastro y es un conjunto de varios poemas. Este es el número 1. Una fisura se tiñe con la niebla que inicia en la llanura, verde del jade oblicuo que da la transparencia que es negada, hojas de espeso tinte, aroma que desciende, fragor de ese principio como vacuo, condena desde el tinte al aroma, durazno que recubre. Sonrosa la línea y va sonriendo, pide de su dulzor al cardenal azul, cardenalicio moretón de celo, rosa en la ventana del espanto el azul tinte, de morada medusa, no mora donde acusa y va de luto. Golpeando la cabeza contra el vidrio, el roto cardenal abre de rosas la cumbre del brazo, la curva que la dicha no quisiera. Es tarde. Deben abandonarlo todo con sangre entre los dientes, con el espeso aroma de las hojas humeantes de la niebla. Batirse en retirada duelo sobre las alas de ese inmenso albatros disecado colgando desde el techo del sepulcro. Dorada bóveda de grillos, blandir en el trasluz del fuego la mano hecha de enaguas, soñar de crisantemos. Al levantar el manto que es la niebla, está la espejada de luz con manantial, el fruto de la aurora, tajo en la frente mórbida, sombría, eje de evanescencia, distraído.
This is called The Alabaster Cup, and it's a series of a few poems. This is the first one. A crack is stained with fog that begins on the flat plain. Green from the oblique jade that gives transparency also negates it. Leaves of thick dye, aroma that falls, clamoring at this somewhat empty start. Condemnation from the dye to the aroma, peach that covers. The line blushes and smiles, asks for its sweetness, of the blue bruise, bruise of jealousy, rose in the window of fear, the blue dye of purple jellyfish, doesn't live where he accuses and mourns. Banging his head against the glass, the broken bruise opens the roses, the curve of the arm, the curve that happiness wouldn't want. It is late. They must leave everything with blood between their teeth, with the thick aroma of leaves damp from the fog. To be beat the retreat from a duel on the wings of that immense stuffed albatross, handing from the ceiling of the tomb. Gilded vault of shackles, brandishing in the hand the light of the fire made of petticoats, dreaming of chrysanthemums by lifting the cloak that is the fog. There is the translucency of light with spring, the fruit of the dawn, a cut on the morbid forehead, somber, axis of evanescence, distracted.
Esto se llama Cloto. Afuera, en el cóncavo espejo que es ahora, un fino entretejido se suspende. Alguien habla de dos, otros de cifras que son inmensas cantidades. La ascendencia se pierde en estratos que no tienen demasiada importancia. Se nombran los caminos, los pasos, los pequeños jilgueros. Se camina sonriendo por la empinada cuesta con las botas sucias del barro del camino. Se llenan los carrillos, los rojos, los sonrientes, de un aire que ahí arriba se dice que es purísimo. Y se habla de la guerra, del color de la guerra. Y aparecen los muertos en fila, con el plato vacío. Me preguntan algo que no entiendo. No entiendo qué me dicen, no entiendo qué hago ahí, por qué me siguen. Y yo no sé qué hacer, y ellos tampoco.
This poem is titled Cloto. It's one of the Greek figures who measures out the thread that gives you the length of your life. Cloto. Outside, in the concave mirror that is now, a fine interweaving is suspended. Someone speaks of two, other figures of immense quantities. The lineage gets lost in layers that don't hold much importance. Paths, country houses, little goldfinches are named. You walk smiling down the steep slope with boots dirty from the mud of the road. The cheeks, the reds, the smiling are filled with the air that way up there they say is so pure. And they talk of war, of the color of war, and the dead appear in line with their empty plates. They ask me for something I don't understand. I don't understand what they are saying to me. I don't understand what I'm doing here, why they are following me. And I don't know what to do, and they don't know either.
La esperanza, siempre como un punto blanco y arrasante, una luz de pura esencia necesaria, incandescente. Cegada por la luz, la boca abierta, palpita algo en el valle, ruido de agua, hojas de eucalipto perfumado. Algo de paz se recoge sobre el oro esparcido, algo parecido a la misericordia queda.
Hope, always like a white and devastating point of light, of pure essential essence, incandescent, blinded by light, open mouth, something throbs in the valley, noise of water, leaves of perfumed eucalyptus. Some peace gathers on the scattered gold. Something similar to mercy remains.
Bueno, esta es la última. Bueno, les agradezco de vuelta. Le agradezco mucho a Jesse y a todos los traductores, porque yo creo que así es como se hace la vida. Esto tiene un número que es el número 32. En la otra punta de la línea se balancea la impotencia, pero en medio está todo, pugnando por su forma imposible, acumulándose en el producimiento interminable. Se huele, se oye el ruido de fondo que acelera su pulso. Emerge de los sueños mezclada con la niebla en jirones, crujiendo de asombro en la penumbra, acunada, y el diálogo amoroso que descansa en la paz del laurel. Preferís el mes de tierra removida como marca el recuerdo, y esa voz que se escucha en los andenes de alta velocidad repite: no te creas, no te creas, no te creas, no te creas. Se sostiene porque la sola vida, la sola manera de estar vivo ha dictado esa cifra, que gotea en la especificidad del tramo. Aparece en los ojos la perdición justo cuando la enfermedad daba la vuelta. La proyección tira del halo más allá, que jala. Ya nadie sabrá nada. Solamente retumba en los andenes al compás del zumbido y parece que dice: chaja, chaja, chaja.
A note for the word at the end of this poem, chaja, which is the name of a bird, a large bird indigenous to Uruguay, that has a very loud sound. If you want to know what it really sounds like, you have to Google the word screaming chicken. On the other end of the line balances the helplessness. In the middle is everything, fighting for its impossible form, accumulating in ceaseless production. You smell, you hear the background noise which quickens its pulse. It emerges from dreams mixed with tatters of fog, creaking with astonishment in the half-light. Rocking and loving dialogue rests on peace laurels. You prefer the month of plowed earth as marked by memory and that voice that's heard on the high-speed platforms repeating, "Don't believe it, don't believe it, don't believe it, don't believe." It holds because the only life, the only way of being alive has dictated that number, that drips into the specificity of this stretch. Perdition appears in the eyes just when the illness is taking a turn. The projection pulls the halo further away. That tug, no one will know anything anymore. Only the voice booming on the platform to the beat of the hum, and it seems to say, chaha, chaha, chaha. Gracias.
Thank you. I omitted one person when I was introducing the others, so if our other translators could come up, I'd like to introduce another. Ana Dini Morales is with us also today. She's translated several collections of Raul Zurita's poetry, including Purgatory and Sky Below. Other translations include Floating Lanterns by Mercedes Rofe, as well as her translations of Alejandra Pizarnik, which are included in Pinholes in the Night, and her translations of the Uruguayan poet Amanda Berenguer. She's a translator and adjunct professor at the Center for Latin American Studies at Georgetown University, just down the road. So, thank you, Anna.
Thank you so much to Suzanne for receiving us here today, Catalina Gomez, Jesse Kercheval for organizing this beautiful event, the Hispanic Division, and the People of Poetry and Literature. And thanks to all of you for taking the time to come out here today. It's great to see you all. So I'm going to read 4 poems by Amanda Berenguer and 1 poem by Idea Vilariño. Amanda Berenguer was born in 1921 and she died in 2020. She was a prolific poet of the Generación del 45, and like many of her contemporaries, Berenguer's poetry often represents meaning under siege. She wrote this book that I'll read from during the Uruguayan dictatorship, which was from 1973 to 1985. So this is from The Identity of Certain Fruits, La Identidad de Ciertas Frutas, which is published in 1983. 1. La manzana. Por las manzanas deliciosamente conozco el deseo, descubro la salud y esa larva de muerte que se lleva en medio del esplendor. Ser como la manzana implica todas las culpas, pero es excitante la propuesta. La manzana es brillante y peligrosa, una sola puede incendiar un huerto. Ser como la manzana es estar en la alta fiesta del día, toda de rasos rojos y diamantes, y llevar en el índice enguantado un anillo de sombra. 1. The apple. By way of apples, deliciously I come upon desire, discover well-being, and that larva of death folded in the midst of splendor. To be as the apple involves all fault, but the proposal thrills. The apple is brilliant and dangerous. One alone can flame an orchard. To be as the apple is to be at the high dance of day, all red satin and diamonds, and on a gloved finger wear, a ring of dusk. 9. Los higos. Tiene sangre el fruto de la higuera y destila su néctar tenaz, su culposo jarabe, sigilosamente. Ha habido un crimen, una violación bajo las grandes hojas. Yo observaba, embebida a través de las ramas. Los higos cuelgan maduros, amoratados, remordimientos. Los higos cuelgan del árbol, como murciélagos de melaza, como ahorcados por robar un manojo de lujuria. 9. The figs. The fig tree's fruit holds blood and distills its tenacious nectar, its guilty syrup surreptitiously. A crime was committed, a violation under the wide leaves. I watched, drunk through the branches. The ripe figs hang black and blue regrets. Figs hang from the tree like molasses bats, like people hanged for robbing a fistful of lust. 18. Las guindas, a Marosa di Giorgio. De las guindas guardo su retrato. su pintura ardiente, el rincón vivo de una naturaleza muerta, su vibrante vocación de licoristas. Guardo su retrato protegido por el vidrio, desde los frascos labrados, desde las sombreadas salas, desde los aparadores con cristales. Custodian sus pequeños senos de púrpura prisionera en recato y arrobamiento. Las visitas no beben ya, guindado. Las visitas no son visitas. Las tías y las amigas de las tías tienen en la mano una copita vacía. 18, The Cherries, for Marosa di Giorgio. Of cherries I keep her image, her fervent paint, the living alcove of a still life, the vibrant call of distillers. I keep her image safeguarded by the glass, from ornamented jars, from shaded halls, from the credenza cabinet displays. They look after her small breast's purple prisoner in restraint and rapture. Guests no longer drink cherry liquor. Guests are not who they used to be. The aunts and the friends of the aunts each hold a cordial, and it's empty. 20, Las Castañas 2. En otras ramas del árbol renacen otras castañas. Estamos en Montevideo, verano u otoño quizá. Miro una evanescente bombonería. Miro las hojas de espejo con iniciales. Detrás, en su caja bordeada de festón y puntillas, están los capullos, los cofres, bajo un blanco pétalo glaciado. La bella durmiente del bosque, la princesa extranjera majón glacé, serenísimas y lujosas crisálidas. Entonces vuela una extraviada imagen, las castañas desnudas, cubiertas de plata, resplandecen imposibles. 20. The Chestnuts 2. On other branches of the tree, other chestnuts are born again. We're in Montevideo, maybe summer or fall. I see an evanescent candy store. I see the initialed mirror leaves. Behind, in her box lined with festoon and point lace, there the buds, the treasures. Below a white glazed petal, the sleeping beauty of the woods, the foreign princess marron glacé, such serene and luxuriant chrysalises. Then a lost image glides through the air, the naked chestnuts, covered in silver, they resplend impossibly. And this poem is by Idea Vilariño, who was born a year before Amanda Berenguer in 1920 and died a year before Amanda Berenguer in 2009, also from La Generación del 45, the generation of 45. This was published in an anthology of Latin American poetry selected by Raúl Zurita, edited by Forrest Gander, and it's called Pinholes in the Night, published by Copper Canyon. Ya no será, ya no viviremos juntos, no criaré a tu hijo, no coseré tu ropa. No te tendré de noche, no te besaré al irme, nunca sabrás quién fui, por qué me amaron otros. No llegaré a saber por qué, ni cómo, nunca, ni si era verdad lo que dijiste que era, ni quién fuiste, ni quién fui para ti, ni cómo hubiera sido. Vivir juntos, querernos, esperarnos, estar. Ya no soy más que yo para siempre y tú ya no serás para mí más que tú. Ya no estás en un día futuro. No sabré dónde vives, con quién, ni si te acuerdas. No me abrazarás nunca como esa noche, nunca. No volveré a tocarte. No te veré morir. Not anymore. This won't be. Not anymore. We won't live together. I won't raise your son. I won't sew your clothes. I won't have you at night. I won't kiss you as I leave. You'll never know who I was, why others loved me. I will never know why or how ever, or if it was even true what you said it was, or who you were, or who I was for you, or how it might have been to live together, to love one another, to wait for each other, to be. I'm no longer more than I forever, and you won't be any more than you for me. You're no longer in a future day. I won't know where you live with who, or if you even remember. You'll never hold me like that night, never. I won't ever touch you again. I won't see you die. Gracias.
Hello, everybody. I'm Seth Michelson. Great to be here. Thank you for coming. Thank you to Rob Casper. Thank you to the Spanish Division, Suzanne. Thank you very much, Catalina Gomez, for all of your help. It's an honor and pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Jesse Lee Kercheval, for all that you do. Thank you, Silvia, for your long journey. And it's great to be with Ana Dini Morales, a fabulous translator, and Jeannine Pitas. It's wonderful to be with you, too. I'm going to read first from a book called The Red Song that I translated by a relatively young, in the context of what we've been discussing, poet. Melisa Mechado, born in 1961. She's an Uruguayan poet. Her imagery can be surreal, the language can be difficult, the syntax wonderfully vibrant in its innovative creativity. So you're going to have to listen close, and I hope you're not too tired. So here we go. I'm going to give you a taste of the cycles that she works through. This is from The Red Song, put out by Action Books under Johannes Goranson's visionary direction of the press. Preamble. I am lighter. Before strangers, I sing. Paul Celan. The prosperity of my tongue, white animals, black animals, poison liquids, clear water, the resurrection of the flesh, resurrection in all its forms, sin, extreme unction, my scars, the sign I saw in that hospital, love, white sheets, barbed wire, poems that look like this, illicit love, the size of my hope, licit love, the vacancy of some, twilight of my life, my face in the mirror after, clean scent, urine scent of the old and sick, cats, descent, dampness in all its forms, imperfection, iron, truth, the delicate skin of eyelids, canvas, closet, the word purity, yellow benches, clarity, forgetting. The Black Song. 1. I've seen you, brother, combing my hair like you'd pet a dog. Night flowers gesturing, the body as stem, hands extended to tongue. And the scansion of my hair, bread of beatitudes. 2. I sleep now with folded wings, lying in a wordless groove. I chew the dark fruit, bittersweet like bread, frozen honey, godless mask, all the coupled black animals. 3. Perfection is this ice, water startling the feet, eyes licked by fever, taste of the name dissolved in the mouth. 4. At the end of hands, darkness is as soft as your tongue, trailing across my brain. 5. Vertigo curdles in your eyes. An anguish of fish swallows the stone of your tongue. Lucid birds at the edge of clavicles. 6. Your ear bones cut flowers hidden from rain. Your silence is perfect, like a wineskin that won't drip. Nothing is left of me, just the light shooting through. 7. The packs of dogs mauls caresses, shreds the anguish of your breath. Octopus hair tangled in fingers, legs pure as sluices. There's no higher power than these, my clavicles. 8. Give me a glass of water from your icy lap. Keep my teeth from freezing. Shred this flower sprouting under my tongue. 9. Take my flesh unbound, this weak pulse. Protect me from wrinkles of gall, the acrid verb. I, who braided my dead into my hair, who sprayed myself with their scent, want to go back to sewing my heart. So that's some of Melisa, a beautiful poet. And I'm just going to throw in a bonus poet who's very young, born in 1983, Victoria Stoll. And this is a book put out by Toad Press under Genevieve Kaplan's direction out in Los Angeles. And it's just one poem by Victoria from a book called Roly Poly. It's titled in Spanish Bicho Bola, from Yauguru, the wonderful press down in Montevideo. And this is Victoria Stoll. The bees use their stingers to carve poems into tree trunks, and the grasshoppers are beautiful with their sad, attentive eyes. And all that we didn't see during winter, because we believed it frozen, begins to whisper, and suddenly we realize we're surrounded by beauty, pure, quiet beauty, which is the most glorious kind, because its musicality is almost inaudible. But if one listens hard enough, it can be heard like a termite working on a violin. Not one of those Stradivariuses, hopefully. It can be heard like a termite working on a violin that no one has touched in years, but that the bug makes sing while destroying it, or not. Who knows? Thank you very much.
I remember nightfall and your room's open door, the door through which neighbors and angels came in, and the clouds, November evening clouds, drifting in circles over the land, the little trees burdened with jasmine, with doves and droplets of water, that joyous pealing, that endless chirping, every evening the same. And then the next morning, with its tiny dead angels strewn everywhere like paper birds, or the most exquisite of eggshells, your dazzling death. This is Marosa di Giorgio, who lived from 1932 to 2004. All of these poems were published in the 1960s and 1970s in Spanish originally. That summer, the grapes were blue, each one big, smooth, without facets. They were totally strange, fabulous, shining with an awful blue brilliance. On the paths through the vines, you could hear them, growing with a deep, outrageous murmur. And in the air, there was always the perfume of violets. Even the plants which were not grapevines produced grapes. Butterflies came from all directions, the most absurd, the most unusual. From the 4 cardinal points came the forest roosters with their wide wings, their heads of pure gold. My father dared to kill a few of them and got rich. But grapes were bursting out from everywhere. A big, rough, blue bunch even emerged from the wardrobe, ancient wood, and lasted forever, like a poet. The gladiolus is a spear, its edge loaded with carnations, a knife of carnations. It jumps through the window, kneels on the table. It's a vagrant flame, burning up our papers, our dresses. Mama swears that a dead man has risen. She mentions her father and mother and starts to cry. The pink gladiolus opened up in our house. But scare it off, tell it to go. That crazy lily is going to kill us. Last night, it came back again, the shadow. Even though 100 years had passed, we recognized it immediately. It floated past the garden of violets, the bedroom, the kitchen. It circled around the syrup jars, the plates white as bones, the syrup jars that smelled like roses. It went back to the bedroom, interrupted lovemaking, embraces. Those who were awake lay with fixed eyes. Those who were sleeping still saw it. The mirror in which it either saw itself or didn't see itself collapsed and shattered. It seemed like it wanted to kill someone. But then it floated out to the garden. It was spinning, digging in the same spot, as if there were a corpse buried beneath. The poor cow, grazing close to the violets, went crazy. She groaned like a woman or like a wolf. But the shadow took off flying, off toward the south. It will return within a century. I'm so happy to hear some of you laughing. Di Giorgio's meant to be funny. She's just, and I mean, if you heard her read it, I mean, yeah, I would read one in Spanish, but in the interest of time, I will just read one more poem by another poet from her generation, Silvia Guerra, who was born possibly in 1929, possibly in the 1930s. Different sources say different things. She's still living, and she won't tell me. So she is a former penal lawyer who, and professor of sociology, who wrote this book during the time of the dictatorship and lost her job before it. So, you know, some people paid with more than that for standing up for what they believed, but she still paid a price for standing up for what she believes, and that's what I admire about her so much. There's no sea anymore. There are bullets. You come back from the wave and move forward. The bullet hisses. It hisses on the golden foam. Foam, blood, sea. Today an absurd man is growing in your eyes. He has neither sea nor house. He's the everyday world, violent to the point of delirium, that grabs you by the feet, snatches you, climbs up your feet and devours you, lays you out naked and alone over death, over a landscape of flies. There's no sea anymore. There are bullets. There's this world, awarded blood, parades, assaults. Later, they put on statisticians' voices and speak of a democratic system. Thank you so much.
Thanks again. I'm going to close with two poems by Circe Maia, who was born in the 1930s. And actually, the poem Jeannine read set up this one very well, which is that in Uruguay, their poems are written in a certain period during the dictatorship. And if you read them knowing that, you think differently of the poem. And so this poem, Circe Maia's husband, who's a doctor, was sent to prison during the dictatorship, and she didn't really know whether she would ever see him again. And this poem is called Treason. The last son did not say to him, "I am the last son." Nothing prepared him. The water slid over his body, and he didn't know this was the way that the water said, "Goodbye." He did not know. No one told him anything. When night came, it came to stay, and he never knew. And then I'm going to read the last poem in the book. And it's called Invitation. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but it also has a backstory for me, and that is when you go visit Circe Maia, in Uruguay, which is a country of 3.3 million people, 1.5 million live in the capital, Montevideo. Nearly all of the poets live in the capital, even if they were born somewhere else. It has that kind of Paris attraction. But Circe Maia lives in Tacuarembó, which is a 5-hour bus trip, I can tell you, having made it many times up towards the Brazilian border. But when you go to visit her, when I go to visit her, Silvia and I went for a wonderful visit this last spring to interview her. When young poets make this trip to her door, she takes you through the house and out into her back walled garden and to sit under her lemon tree. So if you think of that when you have the poet address you in this poem, that will be the right vision. And Circe, I have to say, is the most lovely person I've ever met. Invitation. I would like you to hear my voice. Wish I could hear yours. Yes, yes, I'm talking to you, silent gaze that runs over these lines. You disapprove, perhaps, of this impossible desire to escape paper and ink. What will we say to each other? I don't know, but it has to be better than always talking to myself, turning phrases, sounds, placing and removing parentheses, and putting them in again. If your voice interrupts and breaks this very line, come in. I was waiting for you. This way. Let's go into the garden. There are fruit trees. You will see. Come. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse Lee. Thank you, Silvia, and thanks to all of our translators. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Rob Casper. I'm the head of the Poetry and Literature Center, and I'm just going to finish things up today by saying a couple of things. One, you should all have an event survey next to you, near you. Please do fill it out. You can leave it on the chair. You can hand it to me. You can hand it to anyone else involved in this program. It's very useful for us to find out what you think about this program. Secondly, we have an exciting event coming up on Saturday. If you happen to be here in DC, please come back here at 1:30 upstairs in the room LJ 119 for the Road Back Vets in Literary Writing. We'll have acclaimed veteran poet Bruce Weigel and some cowboy poets, Bill Jones, Vess Quinlan, and Dave Richmond, that read their favorite World War I writers in connection with the exhibit that we have, and then they'll share selections of their work. You can also find out more about events, literary events at the library at www.loc.gov/poetry, and you can check out the Hispanic Division's reading room page to find out more about Hispanic Division events. Thanks for coming out. And there are also books for sale in the back, so go get some books, maybe get some signatures, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you.